Now, the Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, has flagged a return to John Howard's Pacific solution.
The federal government is in negotiations with Papua New Guinea to set up an asylum seeker detention centre on Manus Island, in fact to reopen the old one. Greens leader Bob Brown joins us now from Hobart. Senator Bob Brown, good to talk to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Virginia.
Until today, were you aware that the federal government was considering reopening Manus Island?
No, I wasn't, but it's very clear it's always been in the mix. The Howard solution was Manus Island, their Pacific solution, Manus Island and Nauru. They put effectively a prison on both places. It's history that brought Australia international condemnation, but now we've got the Gillard government taking the western half of that solution by looking at re-establishing that effective prison for asylum seekers on Manus Island.
The federal government, when it was not the federal government, said it would never reopen Manus, and now it is. What do you make of that?
Well, it is part of the Labor Party drifting across to the Tony Abbott or John Howard solution. I was in Madang just last week, the last few days, 300 kilometres just south of Manus Island, and I spoke to quite a few officials and there was no hint of this project going ahead, but now it is going ahead. It's going to create a great deal of contention, and it will create huge hardship and punishment for innocent people who are fleeing from persecution or great danger elsewhere in the world. There's no doubt about that. That's why they're classified as asylum seekers. The last round under the Howard government on Manus Island left one man there for many, many months on his own, driven to distraction. We know that such camps lead to mental illness, extreme hardship and very poor ramifications as far as Australia's reputation is concerned. The Greens alone believe that we should be dealing with asylum seekers, as do other similar countries around the world, by processing these people onshore. If they're illegal, they should be sent home. If they're not, they should be, and most of them are not, they should be integrated into Australian society as asylum seekers in this country have always before the Howard era.
Well, Julia Gillard's party forms government in the lower house, at least in part, because of support that's offered by the Greens. On the basis of this policy switch, will you consider withdrawing that support?
And you get Tony Abbott, who wants to send them to Nauru as well.
Well, it's the same situation then, isn't it? I mean, you're saying that Julia Gillard's gone over to the Tony Abbott right, so isn't that what you've got now?
Well, what we've got is the two big parties breaching their obligations, I think, internationally, but also recreating the Howard solution effectively, because already the Abbott opposition's been claiming this is their idea, effectively being taken up again by the Gillard government. Mm-hmm. And this is why the Greens are growing in Australia, because there is a decent alternative to this, and people are voting for that alternative and will continue to do so. But that's not going to yet help the asylum seekers, who should be treated with decency, humanity, and the compassion they deserve in this very lucky and wealthy country of ours.
But I do want to get to the heart of that philosophical problem, though, for you today as leader of the Greens, that the party that you're supporting is doing something that is antithetical to what you believe in and what you stand for. I just wonder where you go to from here. Can you keep supporting them? Well,
yes, we can, because we don't agree with the Labor Party, and the Abbott coalition is worse. That's the situation. If you've got some solution to that, Virginia, I'd be very pleased to hear it.
No, you say you're between the devil and the deep blue sea.
No, we're this side of the deep blue sea and this devil of an option that's been put forward by the big parties, and we reject this as a devil of a solution. We've got a much more humane, legal and proper solution, which is to process asylum seekers in this country. You know, and the numbers here are modest, despite all the hype and the hand-wringing by the Abbott opposition. Compared to other countries like Greece or Italy or Britain, the numbers of asylum seekers in our country are very modest indeed.
All right. Well, look, we're hearing of other issues this morning that we should try and get to in the limited time that we've got available to us. The federal independent MP, Andrew Wilkie, is going to today outline how his proposed changes to poker machines could pave the way for mandatory betting limits. Do you have any inside information for us on what you believe is going to be the general outline of that? Because he's threatened to withdraw support from the government if his changes don't go ahead.
Yes, well, that's up to Andrew. We're much more consistent and responsible in our attitude to government in Australia, Virginia, as you've just seen. We believe this government should be there for the full term, as previous governments have been, despite all the problems. You just can't get your own way by bringing down governments and be held in high regard in this country. That said, Andrew has taken up a long-held green position of wanting to curb the damage that's done by poker machines in this country. And I hope that he's able to, along with Nick Xenophon, who of course has been campaigning on this for years as well, we are able to do something to reduce the social damage. And I'll be looking with interest at Andrew's proposals. The Greens have very clear policies on this, and we will be very essentially part of the mix if there is to be an improvement in reducing the social damage done particularly by problem gamblers who lose billions of dollars each year in Australia on poker machines.
What do you see as the crucial issues that you think need to come out of the Senate committee report into competition in the banking sector today?
Well, one obvious thing is to follow Britain and get rid of this $2 penalty that has to be paid at ATMs, Virginia, if you go to a bank other than your own and want to withdraw money. That means that I can go and withdraw $500 and pay $2 tax. It's a private bank tax. But the pensioner down the road who goes and withdraws her $20 also pays a $2 tax. That is, she's paying a far bigger percentage cost on her withdrawal, and it's totally unfair. We are looking at the National Australia Bank, along with the others, now recording multi-billion-dollar profits, unprecedented profits. And yet I fear this inquiry is simply going to endorse the bank's ability to penalise customers in that way. Well, that should be stopped. And we've always said there should be some cap on the huge take-home pay of bank CEOs. And we are also opposed to the government's proposal for a 1% reduction in corporate tax to the big banks, which is ostensibly coming up in the budget. That's going to be a huge extra windfall profit for them at the expense of every other taxpayer, and the Greens alone are standing against that.
Good to talk to you this morning, Bob Brown. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.